next speaker is Patrick Durkin. He'll be talking about structured water. Patrick Durkin is the founder of wellness enterprise, the Structured Water Superstore, Lovonya, and the author of Flow, From Pure and Safe Water to Higher States of Consciousness. He's the creator of Aqua Energizer structured water brand, the first structured water device certified and verified to create H3O2 structured water. As a public speaker, Patrick has supported tens and thousands of people to understand how to benefit from the integrated structured water into their lives. Thank you so much, Patrick Durkin, to join us. IAFM, Indian Association of Functional Medicine, welcomes you to the second conference of 2022. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes, I'm able to hear you. Yes.
Fantastic. Well, it's a real pleasure to be with you. And the first thing I'd like to share with your community is who I am and who I'm not. I've had a long health journey, and along the way in my health journey, I haven't become a doctor or earned a credential or earned letters after my name. I've simply been somebody who remembers what it is like to feel pain and has been determined to figure out how to live that I wouldn't be in pain. And so, I remember a moment when I was standing at the bottom of the stairs in my house, and I had my daughter, who was 2 years old at the time, on my hip. And I looked at the stairs and I thought, am I going to be able to climb these stairs without having my knees crumble, without having them buckle? And I felt so much pain, and I got to this top of the stairs, and I saw my daughter, just 2 years old, looking and worrying about me. And that's when I knew I had to go to the doctor and try to figure out what was wrong. And I went to a conventional doctor, and within 5 minutes of knowing me, of course, we had like a 15-minute appointment scheduled. She prescribed a pharmaceutical and told me if I just took it every day for the rest of my life, that everything would be okay. And I told her she was fired. And I walked out of there. And I said, I've got to be responsible for me. I have to figure out what it is about my life that isn't working, what it is that's bringing me pain. And so I started a journey. And that journey is probably similar to a lot of people who have found functional medicine. Like there's a feeling that the allopathic system had solutions that weren't the right solutions for me. So I went searching, and I found a lot of alternative health providers, and then a lot of functional medicine providers, and different people who thought differently. So along the way, I learned that balance was the most important thing. I learned enormous amounts of information about food and hydration, and about, I changed my career, I changed my marriage, I changed everything. And I became a specialist in hydration. I never would have thought that was my life's plan. Like, I was a financial advisor, I drove a fancy car, I owned a boat, and I thought all that was important. And it wasn't until I got divorced and changed my career and went in with what life was calling me for that I began to live a more satisfied life, a life where I believe in who I am and I understand my journey. So one of the biggest things I found along the way was structured water. So let's start by talking about what structured water is. So first off, it's pretty common, no matter where you are in the world, that you believe that water is H2O. It's a pretty simple equation. And in actuality, H2O is just a description.
Your screen is not shared. Your screen is not shared.
You're just seeing me, because
yes.
So one of the things about my my journey is that I've never done a PowerPoint, and today won't be the first. And so part of who I've become on this journey in structured water is somebody who just knows who he is. And I know that that visuals can be supportive for people. And in this presentation, you're just going to hear one man speaking from his heart. So the screen is perfect. But thank you for bringing that up. So the predominant state of water that most people are drinking is H2O, because H2O is the man-made version of water. But if you go into a waterfall, or you go to the ocean, or you go to a place that structures their water intentionally, what you find out is that the predominant state of the water is H3O2. And what's happening is this structured water has a negative electron that other water doesn't have. It has more energy. And this comes from the science that was validated by Dr. Gerald Pollack, who is the head of the bioengineering department at the University of Washington. Dr. Pollack published a book in 2013 where he took a theory that had been around at least for 100 years since the original work of Victor Schauberger. And he said there's a fourth phase of water. There's water that has properties that are not the same as the water that comes out of a tap, or the water that comes out of a plastic bottle. And the most important property of this water is that it's very easy to store energy in it. And therefore, when you put it inside of you, it's very easy to get energy from it. And so that's what structured water is. It's structured water with more energy. And it doesn't mean there's no H2O in structured water. It just means that the predominant state is H3O2, whereas in the H2O, it doesn't mean there's no H3O2. It just means the predominant state is H2O. So along the way, like recognizing in my career, as I was not going to be a doctor and I was not going to be, either a PhD or a medical doctor, I thought it was important that I study doctors to learn what was going on in my industry. And I studied a lot of doctors, and thankfully, the last decade has brought a lot of people to the forefront, people asking questions about structured water and saying, well, what is this? And then, a lot of them very brilliant and teaching from there. So one of the most brilliant that I really admire is Dr. Zach Bush. And Dr. Zach Bush, he's a triple board certified MD, and who has since become more of a farmer than a doctor, because in the last year, he actually sold his practice because he wants to change the relationship he has to the world, where instead of being the one people come to as an expert to supposedly get solutions, he wants to be the one that provides solutions between people and the earth that changes the whole environment such that people are healthy. So Dr. Zach Bush has had a lot of places of standing in life to see things. And he says a couple of things that I think are really profoundly interesting. One is, he says, from running his practice for a long time, nearly 100% of us are dehydrated. So think about that for a minute. Of the molecules in our body, over 99% of them are water molecules. So there's nothing more predominant in us than a water molecule. And yet over 99% of us, close to 100%, are dehydrated. And so that means, like, the basic operating system. Imagine if I took my computer right now that I'm connecting to you from half a world away, and I put the wrong operating system on it. I might be popping in and out, and my screen might be working some, and my sound might be working some, and who knows? Well, we're doing that in our bodies, right? By not getting the hydration right. He also says that the water molecule is equivalent to taking a computer and either having it sitting on your desk, not plugged in, or plugging it into the wall. It's like plugging your biology into all of the energy of the universe. And so if we're gonna feel well, if we're gonna be healthy, we need energy. And the energy is achieved through the water molecule, and over 99% of us are dehydrated. So that gives a lot of insight into why so many people are struggling so much. So another doctor that I've studied is Dr. Ben Edwards. He is a functional medicine practitioner in Lubbock, Texas. He has a practice called Veritas Medical. And at Veritas, what they say is that it's the water in your cell that makes the difference for how your terrain or your whole system, maybe some people use the words immune system, is going to respond to things. So if you want to know how you're going to respond to the virus or any virus, you can look at your hydration first. And so what Dr. Edwards teaches is 4 pillars for health and wellness. He teaches that it's your nutrition, your hydration, your movement, and your peace, your mindset. And so inside of hydration, his practice partners with us because our practice offers devices and education that help people to get water into their cells. So one of the properties of structured water that's different than regular water is that it carries the negative ion charge, and actually 2 properties here, and that it's softer. It has a lower surface tension. So there's 2 types of hydration. There's extracellular and intracellular. Extracellular is like I take some H2O, some regular water, and I chug it down, and then I have to urinate quickly. That's extracellular. The water didn't get into my cells, it just passes right through. Intracellular is I consume some water and I consume it consistently over time, and my cells receive that water and they open up. And as they open up, they receive the water in, and that allows for the water to do its job in the body. So that's the property of water that Dr. Edwards thinks is most important, is that when it can get into the cell, and between the softer surface tension, the lower surface tension actually specifically, and the negative charge, he experiences his patients are able to get better hydrated. Another doctor that I've studied is Dr. Kirsten Deutschlander. She has done a study on detoxification. She studied 80 people over a dozen weeks, 12 weeks. And what she discovered was that people who were put on a mineral-rich water for those 12 weeks experienced a quantifiable difference in their detoxification of their tissues and a lower inflammatory disease presence. And so mineral-rich water is a version of structured water, because one of the ways we can structure water is through adding minerals to it, which changes the way the hydrogen and oxygen are bonded together. There are 3 aspects of hydration that I feel every person needs to answer for themselves. Like, most people just think, do I want to filter or not filter? And what I would suggest is that's the least important of the 3 questions. The first question is, how do I want to structure my water? The second is, do I want to add and enhance with minerals? And the third is the optional question, which is, do I want to filter or not filter? So in this study, they were using mineralized water, which is a form of structuring. So let's spend a second on what structuring is and what structuring isn't. So my industry, in an attempt to define itself, has called everything that we do structured water, but I think it's a little bit of a misnomer. I think we have to go a little bit deeper to understand that there's actually no such thing as unstructured water. Everything is structured. The question is it structured more toward chaos or more toward harmony? And so in the case of things that move water toward harmony, minerals are a good choice. Adding fruit to your water. You know, a lot of people will drink warm water with lemon juice in it in the morning. That is moving water toward harmony, toward structuring. That influences the water toward H3O2. What is chaotic water is water that's gone through a long straight pipe, right? So our tap water, untreated, that is more of a chaotic. Some people believe in structuring water with man-made systems. Like, for example, there's a blender type system that is used to structured water and it creates a vortex and it looks really cool, but I would never use it. Anything that uses electricity to structure water or moves in the direction toward man-made is not a system I'd be supportive of. It's still better than not structuring, but for me, the chaos of an electric field is an unnecessary complicator. So I believe more in structuring with a vortex spin. That's the way nature structures water, or sacred geometry. You can structure water with prayer if you want to. There have been experiments by the Japanese naturopathic doctor, Dr. Emoto, showing that you can tape words on the outside of a water bottle and it has an impact on the water. So that's a form of structuring too. So there's many different ways to structure water, and the ones that are more closely aligned with what the creator has given us are going to be the ones that I'm supportive of. Another doctor that I've studied is Dr. Sarah Van Anrooy. She's an MD, but she's also a psychiatrist. She has over 32 years in practice. And in her 32 years in practice, what she determined is that even for the most unstable, mentally challenged patients, if they were hydrated, they experience feeling so much better than any other therapy that she came to say that hydration is more important than any psychotropic approach to dealing with mental illness. So really extraordinary results. And it's funny, when I started this journey, like, I didn't have the knowledge and support of these doctors, and it was a much lonelier journey because telling people to change water by using a physics-based process instead of a chemistry-based process was something people had to take on faith. And now that we're getting the doctors experimenting it with it in their practice, we can go a lot further. So the last two doctors that I'd like to refer to are in the area of cell efficiency and anti-aging. Cell efficiency, Dr. Michelle Veneziano, who is an osteopath, says it's really important to get water into the cells to maintain cell efficiency, because if you don't maintain it, that's when you start to age. And Dr. Christiane Northrup says that the best approach to anti-aging is actually hydration, because the aging process is actually fascia becoming more dense. And so the best way to keep your fascia from becoming dense is to properly hydrate it, and of course to move it. So there's no substitute for moving your body. And if you move your body with proper hydration, then it distributes the water throughout the body. And that might be part of the process about why we enjoy hydration so much. By the way, I'm going to have room in a few minutes for questions. And so if there are questions, I certainly welcome them. And one of the things that I enjoy is interacting with a live audience. So by all means, if you have one, go ahead and send it in. But with all this intellectual information, all of this support from the medical community, it's really fantastic to support understanding. And my life has been guided to be about more than that. My life has been guided to go from a guy who thought life was all about a certain dream, about making money, about being successful in the world, and so on and so forth, and to discover that when I'm properly hydrated, something else happens. And so what I've discovered, like when I wrote my book, I didn't just write about water filters. I named it Flow, and the tagline for it is, I always forget, so I have to look at it, but from pure and safe water to higher states of consciousness. I never forget the idea, but the exact wording, it's always good to keep a copy nearby. So I have 4 kids. And while raising my 4 kids, the poor kids, they would ask me, Dad, are you ever going to talk about anything other than water? And I'd say, no. we'll just keep talking about water all the time. And we had kind of a water experiment, a water lab. And one of the experiences that was most poignant was when my daughter started going to the middle school. So she was about 12 or 13. It was unpopular and frowned upon to drink water at school. The structure of the schooling is set up to make the kids go all day long dehydrated. And the other 3 kids would be in the car when we would pick her up 1 day a week to come home from the middle school. And she would always just be so extraordinarily upset and mean, like she just couldn't say anything nice. And after like the 3rd week of the new year of school, I asked her, like, how much water did you drink at school today? And she said, none. She said, it's not cool to drink water in school. And so I realized that I had to do my work to make it cool to drink water in school. But I told her, you're either going to, when you get in the car every Thursday afternoon, going to drink the bottle of water that I hand you before you say anything, or you're going to have to take the bus home. And the 3 of us will go home without you. And so we developed a new habit, and, the kids learn and they see, and they saw that there was a connection between emotion and hydration. And so I had moments that were very satisfying as a parent and as a teacher of water and hydration, where one of the kids would be upset and giving everybody a hard time. And another kid would go get a bottle of water and hand it to them and say, here, drink this. The whole family experience will be better if you feel better about yourself. So I've found that the connection between hydration and emotions is enormous. And one of the most essential parts of my life journey is around emotional authenticity. And if I keep my hydration up by structuring my water and drinking constantly, I feel well. And that's just one of those things that, I've experimented with over time. And I want to invite everybody who's listening to contemplate that for themselves, that hydration can't be achieved in gulps and in accidental moments. Like, when I come to speak with you today, I've got water right here, and I always know where I'm going to fill that up when it's empty. So when I leave home, I just fill up a gallon of water and throw it in the back of my vehicle and take it with me. And I always know not just where the current water is coming from, but where the next water is coming from. So in addition to opening up a level of satisfaction around my emotions that's been shocking to me, the other thing that water has opened up for me is a connection to spirituality and the information of all that is in the world that I never could have imagined. So, this is water in many different ways. So I'll give you an example. For about that first 8 years of my career in water, I lived just about 100 yards away from the ocean.
Yes.
And
so please keep some time for the questions, because your topic is so interesting that people are constantly posting questions for you. So
okay, great. Okay,
yeah.
Great. I'll wrap up the spirituality part and we'll hit the questions. That sounds great. So I would when I got in a mood, when I didn't feel well, I would go down to the edge of the ocean and I would put my feet in the edge of the ocean. And I wanted to learn about water. So I would just say, okay, water, I'm supposed to learn about you, like, show me. And I'd be standing there. And one of the things that I noticed was that that vortexes like spin infinitely in a small amount of space in the ocean. And that's when I came to understand that when I'm in the presence of a vortex, I feel better. And so I would go to the ocean in some kind of mood, and I would come back inspired with creativity. And I'll move to the questions now, but I guess a summary of that decade of living is that when I took care of my hydration and constantly moved it toward man-made, toward God-made, God-given technologies, I would feel better. And when I didn't tend to that, then I would find myself feeling more constricted, less well emotionally, less well spiritually. All right, let's see where we are in terms of the first question, and I'll take a sip of water.
Yes, thank you so much. Dr. Ashwini Garg sir is asking your views on ionized water.
Okay, so if by ionized water, we're talking about the alkaline water ionizers that that use electric plates to separate water, I have a lot of experience with that. The 2 years when I transitioned from reverse osmosis water to structured water, I was in the alkaline water world. And what I discovered was that first off, there's a lot of supporters of alkaline water in the world, and I believe that they ride on the authentic stories of people who've changed their lives. So somebody was really sick, they got really acidic, and they brought in water that they liked drinking, and they balanced their acidity out. That's the good part. I actually did that too, so I know about that. But I created the idea of a acid alkaline water seesaw. And I thought, if I started out really out of balance toward acid, and I put the alkaline on the seesaw to even myself out, how would the alkaline water know to stop at even and keep me at a proper homeostasis? It doesn't make any sense. And so I came to attract the information from nutritionists and other healthcare providers that alkaline water is great on a short-term basis, but on a long-term basis, it's an out of balance medical grade water. And so it may give short-term benefits, but I would encourage people to highly consider getting off of it after they've experienced the benefits of getting on it.
Which answers the question, the importance of alkaline water. Second question is that how can we, if you have any products, how can we provide it to the Indian people and the patients who are requiring for the same?
Sure. Well, along the course of the journey of running this company for the last 10 years, I've been loyal to the people, starting with me. I wanted to hydrate properly first. And so I just had the same questions everybody else does, and not loyal to technologies. So as the decade has gone on, I found different ways of structuring water that are better than others. And the point that we've gotten to now, I actually brought a couple of devices to the screen here so people can see. This is what a structured water device looks like. This is a portable device. It's handheld. It's got a funnel at the top. It's kind of hard to see with the screen background here. There we go. You can see the funnel. And then this device is made from copper, crystals, and ormus. And it's called an Aqua Energizer. This is what it looks like in a whole house version. So it's about the size of my forearm. I'm sorry for the screen blurring, but you get the idea of it. So the devices that we favor now are the only devices in the world to have been certified to produce H3O2. So there are other devices that are less expensive, that are made of plastic. Some people like to structure water with magnets. Some people structure water with glass shapes. All of those are going in the right direction and better than not structuring water. But if you want to know without any doubt that the device that you own has been certified to produce H3O2, there's only one of those in the world, and it's called the Aqua Energizer. So that's what we most wholeheartedly recommend. And we've been very generous about offering a trade-in program. for people who've bought some of our old technologies. And so if somebody finds that the price is more than they can afford, they can contact us, and we have some used devices from other manufacturers that we offer at substantially lower prices. We want to serve the world, and it takes all shapes and sizes, but right now, without any doubt, the Aqua Energizer is the best technology in the world.
Yes. Requesting you to share the brochure of the same, and that will be available to the panelists and the speakers and the attendees in the further future. Can infrared light be used to make water structured?
Okay, so this goes down to the idea that everything structures water. And the question is it structuring toward harmony or structuring toward chaos? So yes, infrared light can be used to structure water, and it is structuring toward harmony. The question would then be, is that achieving the objective that you set out to achieve? And that would depend on a case-by-case basis.
There's one more question. How do you measure and determine if water is called structured versus normal unstructured water? And how long does water remain structured? What are the causes it to unstructure? Example, heating or use of UV rays. What should be done?
Okay, great question. So we measure using UV spectrometry in a university laboratory setting. So if we want a definitive measure, is this water structured or not, we send it into a lab. But there's something much easier, which is we feel it. So structured water that's structured toward harmony feels soft. And you can tell on your mouth right away. Like when you drink structured water for the first time and you've never had the experience before, especially if it's really great structured water, like from an Aqua Energizer, you can feel the water start to absorb in your mouth. It's a different experience. A lot of our customers and people that experience structured water for the first time, they'll also experience changes in urination and energy because their body is changing to the operating system it was intended to be on. So the best way to know if water is structured is to feel it. And that is something that everybody can do for themselves. And, that's my big hope for human beings, is that if we can remember that ultimately it's not going to a doctor that's going to realign us with full health, it's becoming a full expression of ourselves and coming into alignment with the truth of who we are. So when we're empowered and we remember that it's our experience that matters, if you feel better with structured water, don't let anybody tell you differently. And if you feel dehydrated, keep pursuing it until you find a structured water that actually has you feel energized and whole and complete the way that I do.
One last question that is going to take up 2 questions from the attendees. I'll be mixing up the 2 questions. Your opinion on sun-charged water and how it is different from the structured water, the H3O21. Any suggestions on the same?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Sun-charged water is great. Sun-charged water or moon-charged water, or, getting water right out of a spring or a stream, like anything where we're getting more of nature is a wonderful way to experience water. So I have a dear friend who lives in Maui, and she structures her water in colored bottles outside on the porch in the moon and in the sun, and she loves it. And she structured it with one of our earlier structuring devices, one of the ones made of PVC. And then I took an Aqua Energizer to visit her. She's a great person to go to visit since she lives in Maui. Always happy to bring her the latest technology. And what she found was when she got the Aqua Energizer, she was for the first time able to take her tap water and structure it and consume it straight out of the tap through the device and feel completely satisfied in the experience of drinking that water. So if somebody lives in a really natural area, they live out in nature and they have a spring bubbling up and they take some of that water and they put it out in the sun and they feel this deep satisfaction and harmony with the water, then do sun charged water. That's awesome. And it's free. And if they still feel lacking, like that there's a greater softness that could be achieved, or they just don't like water enough, then try an Aqua Energizer. We have a money back guarantee. And if you're not satisfied, we'll take the device back, no problem.
Thank you so much, sir. There are many questions though, but as we are running out of time, I would like you to stay back for 2 minutes and just give the answers on the chat if you can. Thank you so much for your insightful session on the structured water. Thank you so much.